Why the Edos should not allow this sacrilege. The palace, the artifacts, and the quiet stripping of a civilization. Moa recontinued. We are back to the Moa episode, and we are coming from the palace angle, the heritage, the artifacts, and the quiet stripping of a civilization. So let us begin where legitimacy begins, with law, with history, with authority that predates Nigeria itself. On March 23rd, 2023, the federal government of Nigeria issued Order Number 1 of 2023, formally titled Notice of Presidential Declaration on the Recognition of Ownership and an Order Vesting Custody and Management of Repatriated Looted Benin Artifacts in the Oba of Benin Kingdom. That declaration did not stutter, it did not edge, it did not outsource sculpture. It vested ownership, custody, and management of all repatriated Benin artifacts squarely in the Oba of Benin and the Benin Kingdom. This was not a favor. This was a correction of history. The Benin civilization did not begin with colonial records. It did not wait for curatorship approvals. For over 1,000 years, Benin has maintained a continuous royal, artistic, spiritual, and administrative tradition. Few civilizations on earth can say that. Fewer still remain intact. So what followed should alarm every Edo man, woman, and even the child. Let's start with when the letter became a decoy. There was a moment when the Edo state government, through a formal communication issued under the authority of Governor Godwin Obaseki, expressly acknowledged the central role of the palace in what was then conceived as a Benin Royal Museum. A letter was issued, an official signal was sent. The Oba of Benin was clearly recognized as fundamental to the project. That letter mattered because museums that house sacred memory are not ordinary buildings, they are extensions of sovereignty. But slowly, quietly, something changed. The project drifted, the language shifted, the control moved. What became as a palace-centric vision was redirected into a corporate structure, first under Legacy Restoration Trust, Ltd/GTE, then rebranded as EMOA, and finally repackaged as MOA. Each change sounded administrative, each change looked cosmetic, but together they achieved something profound and disturbing. They removed the palace from the center of its own heritage. Then came the board changes. Directors were swapped, influence was rearranged, decision-making slipped further away from the traditional institution that the federal government had already recognized as the lawful custodian. What does it mean when a museum built to house Benin artifacts on Edo land with Edo state funds, taxpayers' money, gradually excludes the Benin Royal Palace from meaningful control? It means culture has been converted into a project, heritage into an investment vehicle, memory into an asset class, and at the center of this structure sits Philippe Enacho, a man from the East, holding the levers of civilization it does not inherit, represent, or answer to. This is not about ethnicity, it is about legitimacy. You do not outsource the soul of Benin. A project built on Edo soil, funded by Edo money? No, let's be clear. This project sits on prime Edo land, conservatively valued at over 10 billion. It was enabled by Edo State's public funds. It is designed to house Benin artifacts, looted, returned, and legally vested in the Oba of Benin. Yet the Benin traditional institution was systematically edged out. That is not reform. That is not modernization. That is sacrilege by administration. A museum of Benin without Benin authority is not preservation. It is possession by proxy. And this is a pattern, not by accident. They did not happen in isolation. Under the last administration, the Benin royal tradition was consistently ridiculed, sidelined, and reduced to ceremony. Protocols were ignored. Symbolism was diluted. The palace was treated as an inconvenience rather than an institution. This is the same period where international investors were courted, roadshows were mounted, and platforms like Free Invest were elevated as intermediaries between Edo heritage and global capital. The message was subtle but clear. Tradition must bow to structure. The throne must answer to the boardroom. But Benin is not a startup. It is one of the 10 key royal kingdoms in the world with uninterrupted lineage. You do not manage it like a fund. And this is why every Edo person must reject this. It's not an attack on art. It is a defense on ownership. When you remove the palace from its artifacts, you sever meaning from memory. When you place Benin heritage under external leadership, you reduce sovereignty to branding. Today is artifacts, tomorrow is narratives, next it is authority itself. This is why silence is dangerous. The federal government has spoken, the law is clear. The Oba of Benin is recognized. Any structure that contradicts that declaration is not innovative, it is illegitimate. This is not about nostalgia, it's not about dignity. A civilization that survived conquest, exile, and plunder must not lose itself to paperwork and polite conferences. Edo heritage is not a pilot project. Benin culture is not a stakeholder experiment. It belongs to the palace, it belongs to the people, and it must be reclaimed. Because when the people lose control of their story, they lose more than artifacts, they lose themselves. My name is